I think it's time for me to personally address all of the controversy. Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up comic books that I won at auction off of the platform HipComic. But before I do that, I did want to address all of the controversy that's happening right now, and I don't really like to necessarily speak out specifically around things that are happening, and I hate to even say the comic book community, but sort of like the bubble that we all live in, which is comic book collecting and just being comic book enthusiasts all around. And it's not so much the controversy of the actual facts, which I really want to stay away from because a lot of it is speculation or hearsay. The controversy that I want to address is how everyone reacts to all of this. And I always find this very amusing and fascinating. And there's a mixture of books behind me. Some are raw, some are graded by CGC. And I promise I won't spend a lot of time on this because I would rather open up this awesome set of books that I won at auction because there's some really cool books in there. But this unboxing, coupled with watching how people are reacting on social media, really just kind of plays into how I approach everything, which is do whatever you want. And to me, the controversy is always one side telling the other. And there were posts I was looking at today where someone was saying that it's time that we stop valuing graded books higher than raws. And then I would see the other side chime in and talk about, well, how do we know then what grade these books are in? We can't trust you as a unprofessional, non-certified grader. And then the anti-slab people would say, well, CGC doesn't know how to grade to begin with. And it was just a lot of back and forth. Here's the truth. The fact of the matter is, if you are invested in one side or the other, you're going to say that the other side is wrong. And that's just the way things happen in life, which is really why I don't care to comment because I play on both sides of this. I really enjoy the thrill of submitting my own books to CGC and seeing what grades they get, comparing those grades to how I grade. And I also love collecting raw books to fill out the massive amount of probably too many short boxes. That's a mixture of books that I've had since I was a kid to books that I picked up in various phases of my comic book collecting career. And I love going back through those bins and looking at those full runs. And I continue to find books that contribute to those runs. And then in some cases, I want to have that extra thrill of getting them professionally graded. And I do it because that's what I want to do and that's how I collect. So I'm not asking for necessarily any of the debate to stop because I think debates are always very healthy, but I personally am always just sort of entertained, if not amused, by a lot of the back and forth because really when people are coming in with strong opinions and they want to see CGC fail or they want to see CBCS come in and take their place or they want better slabs or better labels and all of this other stuff, all of the arguments, it's driven by money. It's driven by whatever investment you have. This nonsense of I'm only a comic book reader, then why are you following people who post information about grading and why do you have an opinion about grading? Just go read your comics and enjoy them. It's all very amusing, and I think that the particular amusement that I have is that no one's really being honest and saying, I want CGC to fail because I have a huge investment in raw books and that's where I have the bulk of my collection. I mean, I've seen many popular influencers speak out against graded books and then 6 months later they've got a wall of slabs behind them. So it's like it's all very hypocritical. It's a lot of misinformation. Comic books are meant to be enjoyed, they're meant to be collected, and they're really meant to provide a level of escapism whether you're reading a book, you're collecting it, you're unboxing a slab from a CGC shipment, or you're bidding on books that you've always wanted to own from auction and you were fortunate enough to be able to pick them up and win them and get those final bids in and secure the book. That's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to open up this order of comics that I won at auction and provide yet another example of some of the books that I'm targeting which really can be summarized as books that I've always cherished from afar, or looking at certain eras and starting to enhance my collection even further. So I'm super excited to unpack this order and show you the books that I picked up and won at auction. All right, here it is. This is the shipment of auction wins that I picked up from Infinity Comics off of Hip Comic. It's pretty much the main seller that I look for on the platform. Honestly, I don't know if I would do a lot of bidding on the site if Infinity wasn't there. This shipment, because of the, I guess, the value of the comics inside, this was sent via UPS and it required signature. So I think once you hit a certain threshold or you spend enough money, they add signature confirmation to the shipment. So extra nice bit of security. The other thing I'll say too is they ship books really fast. So as soon as you pay, I want to say if it's like shipped the next day or within 48 hours, absolutely, but usually it's next day. Let me go ahead and get this open up so we can take a look at the comics that I won. All right, let's just get started right here. This is Wonder Woman number 211 from 1974. This thing is 100 pages, and I'm always hesitant to win these types of books just because of the complications with having these books pressed, but to me it looked to be in fantastic shape, at least through the scan. There's definitely, I don't know if you'd call it a stack increase. I really don't know much about these thicker books to see, what's normal, what's not. I don't know in terms of wrapping just how great of a job that is, but some of these DC 100-page specials are quite collectible, hard to get in high grade. I can see where the majority of the damage is on this book right here. Something that's not going to show up in the scan, right? They're basically showing two pictures of the book. It's the front, it's the back, but nothing really on the side. I don't know if the book is outstanding other than this, what kind of condition this is in. But in the auction listing, this was listed as a fine plus. Really neat book from 1974, Wonder Woman 211. And then the issue right after it, Wonder Woman 212. And here we have Sad Wonder Woman. If there's any collectors out there that collect very, very specific emotions that superheroes have, this could definitely be the start of a run of sad Wonder Woman covers, or maybe Surprise Superman, Perplexed Flash. I don't know what Batman's doing over there. This too was listed in Fine Plus. I thought both of these Wonder Woman books were better than advertised. I mean, there's definitely some spine ticks, but the condition of the book is more or less in line of what I'm looking for, which is fine comics with as few color breaks as possible that have the sharpest corners possible to give them a chance. Like, I mean, that's a really, really nice corner up there. I don't believe that that's a fine plus corner on a comic book. That looks to be maybe even in the very fine near mint range. But something that's going to give the book a chance to be improved is kind of what I'm looking for. What I end up doing with the book, as I mentioned earlier in this video, is my business. So I may get the book pressed, I may not. I may get it slabbed, I may not. But regardless, what I want is, when I look through my collection, is to have books with as few color breaks as possible. So very few markings on the cover that would fall under the category of like presenting well. And I think retaining like bold, vibrant colors, good structure of the book, it's very important to me. This is fantastic for $352. This was listed as a VF plus. And again, structurally here, it looks really nice. There's really just one tick, one or two ticks, like just real tiny ones right in here. Actually quite hard to see. A little bit of a stack increase. Again, sharp corners. Really nice there. All around solid book. This book is not necessarily a key, but it is related to the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, which appeared in Loki seasons 1 and 2. The Minutemen were really highlighted in season 2 more than season 1. They were just kind of there in the background, but they actually had some character development and side stories and themes going with the Minutemen. And this book is actually the first appearance of the TVA's Minutemen. So a cool book to own if you're into collecting the comics associated with the TVA. This next book here that looks cool in the light, and I'll just leave it there for a second. It's Wolverine number 100. It is the hologram version. There's also a direct and a newsstand where it's just the standard cover. Essentially, it's the artwork and the hologram right on the cover. This is a book that I've been somewhat obsessed with because I can't seem to get it in a 9.8, and I've lost count as far as how many copies I've picked up. There it is, there it is with the color too. I love that hologram. And this was one of the rare books that were listed in near mint minus. Not that the book is rare, but it's rare for Infinity Comics to list a book in anything above VFNM. And I think they're grading us all over the place. I don't know if this is a true near mint minus. It certainly could be. I'm seeing 2 color breaks on this cardstock-ish type cover right in here. And then the corner is not as sharp as I would like it to be. So it could be somewhere in the 9. And then I'm also, again, this book is haunting me. Here's another crease right here in the cardboard itself. It goes all the way across. So now, yeah, it's probably closer to an 8.5 or 9 and not a 9.2. This is the perfect example of you can't just bid blindly based on their listed condition. The listed condition should be a guide for you to further explore and not necessarily just set up all of your bids assuming they're going to be accurate or assuming that they undergrade. So this book was overgraded. And I'll just continue to keep trying to pick up that book until I can get myself a near mint copy, a legit near mint copy. Next is Uncanny X-Men 144. This book was listed as a VF minus. Looks to be worse than that. I don't know if I saw this or, it's not that it was hidden. I might just have not picked it up on the scan, but that's probably going to make matters worse. Maybe less than a VF minus, could be getting into the fine plus range. The character Monster Despair appears here along with Man-Thing. And this run of X-Men, it's still very collectible. I think it's recognizable, but there's always a lot of these. So I even hesitated to bid on them because there's so many, but ended up getting this one for less than $5 and took a chance on it. And what I've started to do is use my data to kind of help me determine which books I would want to consider maybe cleaning up or pressing, or maybe even selling and moving on from. And so as I'm putting these books away in my personal collection, like this issue of Uncanny X-Men, for example, I know I have multiples of this. And this is when I'm starting now to go through and look at maybe picking out the book that's in the worst condition and figuring out, do I want to keep this long term anymore? And then what do I want to do with it if I don't? There are times where you have to make some really hard choices. And it's why I try to grade every single book so that I can tell, if I've got 5 copies of this, is it worth keeping this copy that I spent $4 on if this is the one in the worst condition out of all of them? And they're just decisions now that I have to make going forward because I just can't keep every book. Speaking of keeping every book, this was the big book in the order. And I'm super excited, and I love now looking at this as the proud owner, finally, of a copy of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 4, with just absolutely stunning artwork as I look at it here for the first time. Artwork by Jim Steranko. There's the Steranko printed signature there. And just taking a look at this, what I noticed was, again, what am I looking for? I'm looking for strong structure. Corners. You'll see that there are creases, but with the white cover, instead of dealing with color breaks, kind of dealing with discoloration or dirt right there by Nick Fury's corner box, right? There's a little bit of dirt that would need to have some cleanup. This too also is, looking at it, it's probably like an off-white, not necessarily the bone white. I mean, you can see the difference here with Infinity sticker. So there it is in white. So it has some yellowing to it. And I think I don't know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to submerge these books and put a bunch of fluorescent lights in the water, and all of a sudden it comes out like neon white. I have no idea how they do that, but what I was looking for is the structure. Just, again, corners, edges. This book looks great. And this was listed as a 6.0. I don't think this is a 6.0. I think it probably has some potential to at least be a 7, if not an 8. But also the wrapping, I would say that's near perfect wrapping. Even as you could see the corner box just hanging onto the edge there. a lot of times, especially with the 12 centers, you'll see only the 2 in the price. And it's just very well centered and just super presentable. I absolutely love it. And I saw this book in the auction. I knew the condition. I knew that it was better than a 6.0. I targeted it. I figured out what my max was going to be. And then I also adjusted my max because what if I was going to invest in having somebody potentially clean it up for me, maybe even invest in it further to have it graded, looking at my total investment and my total return, and I pushed that bid up. And obviously, I was the last bidder standing where I won the book. I'm going to put it back in here. Just, man, absolutely love it. I've always admired this cover from afar. And I think as I got older, I started to respect it even more and really just am super, super happy to finally have that in my collection. Very exciting for me. So if you are curious to know what my final bids were for these books and wanted to compare them with current fair market values, I do that in my order summary video specifically for Moneyball Comics channel members, where I go through in detail all of those numbers and how I organize all of this data in spreadsheets. So if you are interested in becoming a Moneyball Comics channel member, you'll be able to unlock all of those order summary videos where you can nerd out with me going over spreadsheets, raw fair market values, projected fair market values, values of the book if I were to get it graded, and so forth. Continuing on with the comics, here's another one that have always wanted to add to my collection, and now I finally can. Long Shot #1, and this book had come up at auction several times through Infinity Comics, but I was holding out for what I was considering to be a decent copy. This book was listed in very fine condition, and I hope you see a theme here of the kind of books that I'm trying to pick up. So at a very quick glance, strong, sharp corner up here, and then as we kind of just go down the spine, it looks great. So you might even argue, boy, that's a 9.8 candidate. It's not. There are several creases here, if I can get it in the light. There's one right there, right? So there's that would need some additional TLC along the spine to kind of pop those out and smooth them out. But other than that, this book looks amazing. It really, really looks nice. And when I see these, again, I adjust my maxes and I bid accordingly. And while I think I paid probably a little bit more than fair market value for this one, what I'm hoping is that there's a payoff down the road if I choose to get it cleaned up a little bit. Okay, now I have, I think if these are all in order, I have a run of Ghost Rider. This is volume 2 of Ghost Rider, but volume 1 of the Ghost Rider that we typically know and love, the modern Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. This is Ghost Rider 63 from 1981. Love this cover by Bob Budiansky with the skull in the background. And I picked this one up. This was listed as a very fine Ghost Rider 63, but with the all black background, you're typically going to see a lot of damage on a book like this. And I think that was just a light there. I don't think that's a crease, but again, the edge looks super sharp. Corner almost looks like a little bit of an ink stain down there, but it was slightly miswrapped, which was going to protect the book, or at least I thought so. And then here's quite a number of, again, those same thing, just like Long Shot #1, just a lot of creases to the spine. That's typically when you get a CGC grader note, they'll say creases to spine, and a few of them do break color, unfortunately, but very, very minor. And then again, strong, sharp corner at the top. So really nice copy. Ghost Rider 63, and ended up getting a few other issues of Ghost Rider. Kind of the same story with this one, Ghost Rider 56. And this book has some significance because it's the first appearance of Hamilton Slade as the Phantom Rider. The original Phantom Rider was Carter Slade, and it also says Knight Rider. You have Ghost Rider, all kinds of riders on here. But the book just looked great. This also, too, was listed as a VF. Again, strong structure here. Spine looks good. Same as Ghost Rider 63, just several creases, a few minor color breaks, but looked to be in tremendous shape. So what I'm thinking is these VF books, maybe if they went through a press and had some work done along the spine, they could move up into the 9.0 to 9.4 range. And so while I bid on these books, thinking they were VFs, but I'm always keeping in the back of my mind the idea of, well, what if it could go from an 8 to a 9.2? What does the 9.2 look at? And that's how I adjust my ranges. Another Ghost Rider book here. This is Ghost Rider 47. Another cover by Bob Budansky, inks by Al Milgram. Yeah, this looks the same. So I think that their Ghost Rider books, at least for this auction, were pretty consistent in that VF condition, with kind of the same situation, sharp corners, and just a lot of non-color breaking creasing along the spine, but just really nice, presentable, like I said, vibrant colors. And listen, if it came back as is as an 8.0, I'm still happy to have this book from 1980 as an 8.0. I'll take it. And I think this is the last Ghost Rider I picked up. This is Ghost Rider number 30. The first appearance, technically, of Bounty Hunter. In the Star Wars universe, that means nothing because it could be anybody, but in Marvel Comics, specifically a character called Bounty Hunter. This too listed in very fine condition, but looks great. Love this one. I see very few creases. None of them break color. You know, really great candidates for pressing. Okay, I lied. There's one more Ghost Rider. This is Ghost Rider 28. This is cover art by Ernie Chan, and it's a total cringe. This book right here. I think that's what the kids say. Or they used to say. I'm not sure. But this one's from 1977. This was a VF minus. I think I see a color breaking tick there. But again, just lots of creases. Here's another color breaking tick. So that was kind of the difference between this VF minus and the other VFs. And I do wonder, like, what I'm trying to do is guess at what Infinity Comics' grading criteria is. And it looks to me almost like, again, not a rule, but a general kind of idea is that if there are color breaks, it's going to be at best a VF minus. So when I see a book that's listed in a VF or VF plus, it's less likely to have them. Again, there's a lot of misgrading going on, but that's kind of the general concept or idea I have. That's my working theory. So let's put this theory to the test. This is Captain Marvel number 39. This was listed as a VF minus. This is the first appearance of Aaron, not to be confused with Aaron, but Aaron the Rogue Watcher, and is the origin of the Watcher. Also, story is included in here. And I don't see color breaks on this one. So again, it's a theory, but clearly incorrect as I look at the spine. Spine looks just like the other Ghost Rider books, just creasing. See if I can get it in the light there. There's just some creasing here, but with the miswrap kind of protecting it, strong corners, you know, looks to have the potential of a grade bump or two. The only thing I would say about this one, the color looks a little bit faded. I don't know if this is the natural color of the book or not. It doesn't look as sharp, but it could be just the palette that's being used. But it's also from 1975, but like if you just compare it to Ghost Rider, it just looks a little bit muted, but not too bad. Next one is another X-Men book. This is X-Men 152. Same thing like the X-Men 144. A book that is fairly common, has value in a 9.8, but once you start getting into the 8.5 to 9.4 type range, 9.2, those grades are actually fairly common. And I picked this up in fine condition, and I think I just threw up a low bid on it and I won. So it's not necessarily something that I was targeting, but just trying to get, like I said, as many of the X-Men 94 through however many issues I want in as high grade as possible. And the last book is another Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 3. Another cover by Jim Steranko. He did most of the covers, not all of them. And the Steranko covers of the series are the ones that are the most collectible. I think that the issue I picked up that I showed earlier, issue 4, issue number 1, and then I think it's issue 7, I believe. It's the homage to Salvador Dali. I think those are the more famous of that. So I don't want to say this is a particularly famous cover, but all of the Steranko covers are very, very collectible. And just like Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 4, this too was listed in Fine Plus. And I really think that their grading adjusts based on the era. So this being a Silver Age book, I think they just sort of downgraded it just because of the age, which I think is a mistake because the book looks great. Looks really nice. I'm not seeing any major defects along the spine. Very, very tiny hairline creasing, a couple of minor ticks. There's the bottom corner. I would say it's like a 9.6-ish corner, very close. Down there is a little bit of color loss on that corner. And then this one has some creasing and color loss around this corner. Probably in that 9.0, 8.5 to 9.0 type range. If I'm just looking at that, of course, I'd have to flip the book over and look at the back cover as well, and that's where we could start to see it move from like a 9 down to like a 7 or 7.5 if possible. But it's in the ballpark. It's definitely, I don't think it's a fine plus, and so I'm really happy about that too. So these are the books that I won at auction. A really cool mixture of nostalgic comic books. Man, this Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., this was kind of the cornerstone of this set of auction wins. Would really like to get this on display next to my other Steranko Strange Tales book. But overall, really happy with this assortment of comics that I won at auction. All right, so those are the books. I can't wait to take a little bit of a closer look and get these books graded and catalog them in my spreadsheet and curate them exactly the way that I want to, regardless of any dispute or arguments on the internet. And the way that I look at it is there's literally nobody that can tell me how I should or shouldn't collect comic books. So I'm thrilled. I keep looking at this one. This is the one I'm most excited about. I think it has the most potential from a collectability and value perspective. It's such a neat book to have. I've watched a lot of documentaries on Steranko and just like his style and approach, and he arguably has the most significant impact on the comic book industry without producing that many comics. I mean, it's almost like pound for pound or issue for issue or page for page. He's the most impactful artist, creator. The way that he not only drew covers, but his panel work, interiors, is so game changing and ahead of its time. Now, they're not always necessarily easy to collect all of these because there's a lot of folks that collect Steranko artwork, but there is kind of a finite set that makes it a little bit easier to track down. But just super happy to have what I have. Really, just a great book, great assortment of comics. Thank you, Infinity Comics, for shipping these out so fast. They arrived safely, securely. I look forward to your auctions, and enough people have watched these videos where I am now bidding against a lot of the people that I've met through my channel. But that's okay. I think that we're looking for different books. We're looking for different conditions, different price points. I don't necessarily participate in every auction or bid on every book, as there are plenty of comic books for all of us. Thank you for watching, happy collecting, and see you next time.